Welcome to the LexisNexis Evolving IP podcast. And today's episode, OpenAI Challenges and Opportunities. I'm Nigel Schweitzer and I'm joined by co-host Frankie Lavoie. Hi, Frankie.
Hi, Nigel. It's lovely to be here again.
Today, we are excited to welcome Gideon Myles to our podcast series, who runs the patent and trademark program for OpenAI. This may well be the most popular podcast we've ever done, but it's a welcome to have you with us, Gideon. And can you please confirm that you are real?
I am definitely real. I have not been replaced by any kind of AI bot.
Great. So we can see a real person on our screens here. That's great to know. Gideon, thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to have you here. And obviously, given that you come from the organization that is the inventor of ChatGPT, I think we've got lots to talk about. But before we start there, how did you get to OpenAI? What has been your career path?
First, thank you for having me. My career path, I studied math and computer science as an undergrad, and then computer science in grad school, got a PhD in computer science, went on to work at a couple different companies as a software engineer. And then it was as I was working on my PhD that I was working on software-based approaches for software theft detection and prevention. And I started thinking, well, okay, great. I can detect that this is happening. I can try and prevent it from happening. But what can you do on the legal side? Can you actually even do anything if you find out that somebody's stealing software? I thought, well, I'll include a chapter in my dissertation about the legal side of things. And that kind of sparked my interest. I didn't know anything about patents or any other aspect of IP. And then as a software engineer, I got involved in patents as an inventor. And so got a lot of exposure that way. And I thought, maybe I should try this law thing. So I went to school at night. It was a lot of work. And then found my way to patent prosecution. And then eventually made my way in-house, which turned out to be exactly what I wanted because it allowed me to stay super close to the technology, have the business piece, the strategy piece, and I got to put all of my interests together. And so I'm super happy.
And you were at Dropbox for a good length of time. Was it 11 years?
I was a contractor for 2 years and then a full-time employee for 9.5 years.
And so what prompted you to move to OpenAI from Dropbox?
Honestly, it was the excitement of AI. The job became available and it was one of those things that I couldn't pass up. I loved working at Dropbox, amazing place to work. But this to me seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
When you looked at the job advert, you looked at the opportunity, exactly what was exciting you about it?
I would say there's a couple different pieces. One was the opportunity to get on the ground floor of working on the patent and trademark program. And there was the technology. I thought the technology was super exciting, wanted to be more involved with AI and really dig in on that and kind of get to think about what is the best way to be dealing with IP with respect to AI, and then getting to see all the legal issues. It's a hot space for legal across the board. I think there's a little bit less in the patent and trademark space, but that doesn't mean I don't get to watch and listen to what all my colleagues are doing and learning along the way.
I think we'll go on to talk about cutting edge legal, but if we circle back to cutting edge technology and AI, obviously everyone was super excited about the launch of ChatGPT, but is AI new?
A large segment of the population thinks that AI is new and they think that it just popped up overnight with ChatGPT. But in fact, it's been around for a long time and we've all been using it. I don't think that a lot of people are necessarily aware of all the different places that it creeps in, like Netflix. We each see our own unique Netflix screen, and that's all done by AI, trying to determine what it is that we as an individual want to watch. Amazon recommending products to us, making sure that they can deliver those products to us. So it's actually been around for a really long time. It's just we weren't necessarily aware of all of it.
And I think that does bring me to a question around, obviously, the definition of what is AI. I think maybe it's wider than some people think. I'm going to quote the OpenAI mission, which is to ensure that artificial general intelligence benefits all of humanity. What's your definition of what that actually means?
What people are seeing in ChatGPT is generative AI, the ability for the machine to respond to a question by generating, whether it's new text or an image, video, that kind of stuff. But AI is broader than that. It'll be the ability to automate processes, to generate text, to generate all sorts of content, putting all of these things together to be able to do the tasks that humans can do. Ultimately, when we think about general intelligence out of a machine, it really is about being able to do the same things that humans can do.
And I guess that's starting to talk around the why of AI. Why are we using AI?
From my perspective, it's about making things better. It's about being able to automate a lot of the tasks that we as humans maybe don't want to do or are actually not that efficient at doing, so that we can do the fun stuff, do the things that require the higher level thinking.
And where do you think we're going to go? Is there more to come?
I think there's a lot more to come. I think we're just starting to touch on what they can do. What we are not quite into yet is the ability to get these systems to do things for us, to start automating tasks on our machines, sending the bot out to do an activity for us, do some research for us, or go out and buy something for us while we're doing something else. There's just so much more that we hope will come.
And I just want to bring in a topic here that often gets talked about when people are maybe in the sort of fearful stage around AI is around hallucinations. What's your response to how people should deal with that?
There's going to be inaccuracies in content. The internet has tons of inaccuracies on it. And what we as people need to do is be aware that these things happen and verify what we're getting out of the system. Make sure that what we're getting is accurate. Do our research, use different systems. Maybe you use a couple different systems to verify. Maybe you go out and look it up through some other means. But these systems, they're only going to be as good as the data that's put into them. If the data has inaccuracies in it, then the systems are also going to have inaccuracies. So we need to worry about what's happening as we train them, but also it's just going to happen. I know I've given plenty of inaccurate answers in my life, especially when answering my children their questions. It's no different. You just need to check and verify that what you're getting is correct.
When I was looking at the Gartner hype cycle, and it had generative AI almost on the top of the first hump. And after that hump comes the trough, as people over-expect and are disappointed. I kind of wish that wasn't going to happen. Is there anything that you observe could help us wash through that next stage?
We get excited about technology as humans. We get excited about the potential. And sometimes the potential takes longer to get to than what we want it to. And so I think with this one, we've had a huge growth very rapidly, and that may not be sustainable. And so I think that we need to be realistic about what we can do and the time frame that we can do it in. And so I think we just need to be patient. We need to understand that we will get there. It just may be a little slower.
Nigel, I'm wondering if I could get some reflections from you, because AI is not new to you or new to LexisNexis intellectual property. And there's definitely been some lessons learned along the way and how we should be thinking about AI.
In 2013, we set up Cypher as the first company to be effectively natively AI, just using good old supervised machine learning to improve a problem that humans really hated, which was to map patterns to technologies. And it was amazing at speeding up that task. And everyone thought that we were the devil. Like, how could you come and replace human tasks with a machine? And what's wrong with good old Boolean? And then on a certain day in 2022, ChatGPT 3 came out, and it was like, well, if you haven't got generative AI, then don't bother participating in the future of law or the future of IP. So I obviously recognize everything Gideon's saying about how long AI's been around, how it's been integrated into apps that humans are very comfortable with. And obviously, there's a lot to celebrate in generative AI because it has that human-like quality. But I think I would encourage everyone to listen really carefully to what Gideon said about really focus on what the machine is doing and whether it's solving your problem. Don't just use tech for tech's sake, 'cause I'm not sure that's a road to happiness.
Totally agree with that.
How can you deal with that optimism and potentially that pessimism around AI, where some people are very excited about what it can deliver for them, but also maybe slightly worried that their jobs are going to disappear, or the job that they'd always had that they were going to retire with might not be there in the future?
I think that the benefits from this technology are going to far outweigh the negatives. It is going to allow us to be better at our jobs. So the way that these jobs will change is that it will allow us to be more efficient at what we're doing, allow us to do it in a faster way, in a more pleasant way, figure out ways that you can leverage it as an individual, start experimenting with it. And I think there are going to be people whose jobs may end up becoming obsolete, and we need to help those people. We need to make sure that we're training them to do something else, that we're getting them along a path where they can continue to be happy with what they're doing. But I do think that the things we're going to be able to do are going to be amazing with this technology.
The intellectual property professional, whether they're working in a law firm or in-house, around how they should think about AI and what it can do for them in their roles.
I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways they can use it. Using it for patent analysis is a great way. Also, using it for, I think one of my favorite use cases right now really is summarizing things. It works really well to understand what a document is about, to kind of get that first level understanding. That's a great use case in the legal profession, to just take off that first chunk of like, what am I looking at? What is this patent about? And then you can start using it for editing content. Give it something you've written, ask it to make it shorter, make the language more accessible, change the language to some other style of writing. And then there are tools, particularly in the patent space, the contract writing space, that are starting to help write these things from scratch. I don't know of the patent writing tools I have seen so far. I think there's still a large need for humans to participate in that process, but they can help you get a framework together. So there's a lot of ways that we can be using it in patents, in IP, and within the legal profession in general.
And thinking about some of the challenges that are ahead with AI, there's obviously the EU regulation, which I think I read that the MEPs voted on. How do you think that's going to shape the landscape?
Regulation is going to be huge. We are watching regulation pop up all over the place. I think we need to get to kind of a more settled state with it. Everybody's thinking about it differently. We need to have some uniformity here so that we don't get too much fracturing of the tools that make them unusable. I don't think that all regulation is necessarily bad. There are definitely use cases of AI that could be harmful. And I think that we're all aware of that. The people working on the technology are aware of that. And I think that regulation around that kind of stuff might not be such a bad idea. I think over-regulating could be extremely harmful. It could be kind of a killer for the technology, which would not be beneficial for all of us.
And for those people on this call, which actually may only be me, who's old enough to remember the birth of the internet, there was the same question about law and regulation for e-commerce, as it was called back then. And of course, the bad actors don't care about law and regulation. And so they march ahead with the technology. And of course, we read a lot, whether it be deepfakes or whatever, about bad actors and generative AI. What kind of comfort can we take from that? Because I say they're not going to listen to EU AI Act or anything like it.
Yeah, it's on us as technology developers to work on those hard problems. And we definitely are working on those things. We've published multiple blog posts around safety, around efforts that we're undertaking. We're super serious about the safety of our technology, trying to make it so that it can't be used for harmful purposes, whether it's deepfake or something else in the future. We're very mindful of these use cases. And I think that's what it's about, is that we as technology developers have to be thinking about the negative use cases, and we have to be designing systems that do our absolute best to prevent them or address these issues. And that's definitely what we're doing as a company. And I think it's what others are doing as well.
I do think generative AI poses some real challenges. So I know it's a sensitive area in relation to copyright, but when the LLMs have been challenged for how they've been trained and the copyright law is struggling to cope with the output of unassisted LLMs. Do you think the IP laws can cope with this new technology?
I do think that they can ultimately, but I think it's going to be a matter of evolving our thinking around IP laws for this technology. And it's going to be a matter of how quickly can we adapt to them, because it is fundamentally different than other technology these laws have had to deal with in the past.
Back to OpenAI and thinking about the IP assets that you own, what's your strategy around protecting that IP?
The technology is incredibly important to us. And so we kind of think about it from multiple perspectives, considering all of the different IP protections that are available, whether that's thinking about trade secrets. And a lot of what we do is kind of secret sauce. But in those cases where planning to publish about our technology, particularly technology that might be back-end technology, then we do need to think about, like, what is the right thing? Is this something that we just want to give away to the world? And we definitely do that. We give away a lot of our technology through publication where somebody could go out and replicate it if they want to. Or is this something that we feel, we want to protect through patents? We're not an aggressive company when it comes to patents. That's not our plan. And we kind of view it as we need to protect ourselves. We're not naive to the fact that there may be people who come after us. And so we need to be prepared to protect our product, to protect our business. But also by filing patents, if we don't use them, then we're kind of protecting the AI ecosystem as well. That's one less patent that somebody else could get and leverage against others. So we kind of think about it that way.
We've worked together over the years, Gideon, and you've always aligned yourself with strategy. And in the last sentence, you managed to get the words open, trade secret, and patent all into the same sentence. Do you find yourself being intimately connected with the business as they go through those choices? And how do you manage to go and get that audience and that attention?
I am involved in those decisions. My role there is to advise the business on here's the pros and the cons of doing these things. And we as a company need to figure out what the right strategy is for us overall, factoring in all sorts of different factors. As far as how I go about doing that, it's about relationship building, making sure that I know who's working on what we're working on at any given time, and being part of the conversation throughout the entire process.
Given what we've talked about, where AI has come from, what OpenAI is planning to do, what do you think the future holds?
I kind of touched on this a little bit. I think that the future is bright for AI. I think there's some amazing use cases. I am particularly excited about the use cases within the healthcare industry, ways that it can be used there to do drug discovery, identification of diseases, all of that kind of stuff. But I think that in the more immediate future, I think it's going to be around automation of tasks. I think that's one of the next big steps for AI technology in general.
And if you have to sum up this conversation, what would be your key takeaway for listeners?
I think the big takeaway probably is that AI is going to be hugely beneficial, that there will be ways that this technology can be used in a negative way, but that the benefit will outweigh the harm, and that we as an industry are definitely thinking about the harmful ways it can be used and are trying to address those.
I'd speculate that large language models have created a level of excitement that exceeded Edison's light bulb. This explains why ChatGPT reached over 1 million subscribers after only 5 days. This AI frenzy also leads to an expectation that the models will provide instant solutions to all problems, great and small. It's reassuring to hear Gideon encourage caution. While we all need to engage, we must walk before we can run and avoid the pitfalls associated with adopting the wrong tool for the wrong problem. It's also uncomfortable for lawyers to be thrown into a debate where many of the foundational questions have no clear answers, not least whether the copyright questions around how LLMs are trained could stop or impede further innovation. That, in my view, would be tragic. not because we will have to write our own CVs, but because the applications which Gideon talks around healthcare and education, security, and so much more are likely to be game-changing. In Europe and elsewhere, we've also started down the path of regulation. While this makes total sense, it's the responsibility of all of us to engage so that we can harness the power of computing for all it can deliver. Thank you so much, Gideon, for the conversation. It's been an absolute privilege to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. It was fun.
Thank you for tuning in to the LexisNexis Evolving IP podcast series. Please continue the conversation on social and share your thoughts about today's episode on OpenAI challenges and opportunities.